Clojure was 12, so this is 13. So
all right, okay. So boom. Hello, welcome to Defen, episode 13. Unlucky for some, especially our guests, I think.
No, for me it's actually kind of a lucky number.
All right, okay. Who is that?
Who's that?
Who's that voice? It's Ray in Belgium here.
And Vijay from Holland.
And this is Arne, tuning in from Berlin.
Hello Arne, welcome to Defen episode number 13, the lucky number.
Yeah, hey Vijay, hey Ray, how's it going?
It's going well.
It's going pretty good. So first, let's talk about a bit. As Ray was mentioning before the show, we're still in the afterglow of Clojure. So I think we had fantastic time at Clojure, and we got to meet a lot of excellent developers and people who are into all the Clojureans or whatever those people call themselves these days. I don't know, Clojureans, I think.
Clojurians, Clojurists.
Yeah, Clojurists. Yeah, and we also got to record some there. And we also got to record some nice chats with them, and we're still processing those things, and those episodes should be up pretty soon on the pipes.
Yeah, actually, we're going to do something special as well, aren't we? Because we took our camera along as well.
Yeah.
We did a bit of video recording. We had a mini TV studio set up. It's quite hilarious, actually. And so we're going to put some stuff on the YouTube channels as well. So we'll have the podcasts, we'll have like the recordings, but also we'll have some visuals as well, which will be a novelty for Defen. That's for sure.
I think it would be really nice if we can voice swap on the videos. Like when I'm speaking, I should be speaking in Ray's voice. And then when Ray is speaking, it should be in the Indian voice. That would be hilarious when people watch the videos. They get super confused. Like, wait, what?
I shall tell Wouter, who's doing the editing, to swap us over like that, yeah?
that should trick people.
I'm actually going to change it. I'm going to make you like the chipmunk voice for the videos. That's probably the best thing.
Yeah, that'll be cool. But anyway, I mean, it was a fantastic conference with great talks and everything. And Arne, I mean, what was your perspective on Clojure?
So I had a really good time. It was my first time in Bratislava, and we went there with a big delegation from Berlin. It's always nice. So Malvina and I had the opportunity to do a talk on Clojure Bridge, and that was great. It's always great to get the word out and to show people what we're doing, but also to show people that they can do the same. I talked to a lot of people. I have to say, I missed a lot of the talks. I'm actually really waiting for the videos to come out because I've sort of been asking everybody which talks they like best, and then I'm going to watch those on the videos. Because I just
all of them.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, probably. So we had a booth. We had a table in the back from Clojure Bridge, and so I spent a lot of time there, just sort of manning the booth and talking to people. Which was cool, I just spent a lot of time in the hallway track, meeting people, some people that I knew from online that I haven't met in person yet. So it was great. It was really well organized. Had a very good time.
Yeah, I think it was a fantastic conference. Of course, I mean, I was attending, I think, most of the talks, apart from the time where we spent talking to the speakers in our makeshift Defen studio.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, there was a lot of enthusiasm, and I think this is almost like third or fourth Clojure for me. The one that I missed was in Barcelona. Rest of the things I attended all of them, so you can see consistently, the growing enthusiasm of the people, and especially the talks which are not just about technology but also application of technology in different domains. So that was especially the medical stuff that one of the talk was based on. That was pretty cool, actually. But anyway, so
yeah, before we go on, remember I had a talk there as well.
Yes. Yeah. I was about to say about that one. So we had deaf joke session by Ray, which was we expected 4 people, but it ended up having almost like 400 people, I think.
400, yeah, at least. Yeah.
We can exaggerate.
Was that the unsession about comedy and Clojure? Was that you?
Yes.
I saw that on the wiki. I didn't realize it was you.
Oh, you should have came along. Actually, it was quite well attended. Far in excess of my expectations. The sad thing about it was that we didn't have a PA system, so and I had a bit of a cold, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It was quite well. It went quite well. It was quite funny, and people enjoyed it. And
circumstances considered.
Exactly. And my son, who came out as well with me, who did some of the recording for us, he got a video of the unsession. But the quality isn't that great. But I might still put it up there. I'll let VJ and have a look to see if he thinks it's good enough quality.
Yeah.
But it was fun anyway. It was good doing it. It's the first time I've ever done anything like that at a conference or in real life. So it was quite good fun to do it. Definitely something I'd like to do in the future as well. Actually, I'm hoping to do something at the Clojure days, or maybe I'll put a deaf joke in for Clojure D, Arne.
Yeah, that would be nice. I'm sure they'd be open for that.
Yeah, it was a bit of fun, and it got some great feedback, some great audience participation. That was the awesome thing about it, actually.
Yeah.
And,
so what happened exactly? Like how did the two combine?
I'm sorry.
How do you Clojure and comedy? What's the link? Yeah,
well,
just finding it hard to imagine. Like,
well, it was a macro called Def Joke, which you use to construct functional programming jokes, and it was just basically going through the various building blocks and patterns and those kind of things. And so I'll leave the rest to your imagination.
There is a lot to be imagined. But
the nice thing about it was that I got a kind of lot of ribbing afterwards, and a lot of feedback from people who were wanting to give me all kinds of ideas for different types of deaf jokes. So that was good. So I think there's a rich vein of material to be mined there. So I think a few more conference talks were in order. Anyway, yes. So
okay, maybe
that's probably enough about that one. But it was
yeah.
a hell of a conference. I think I've just about recovered from it. Actually, there was some very late nights. Oh my god, some very late nights. Some very early mornings.
Yeah, I actually I've been sober since the after party. Just it was enough. Had enough.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's good. So, VJ.
Yes. So I think it would be nice if we give some idea about our guest on the show. So Arne. Arne. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're from Belgium, living in Berlin.
Exactly.
And you're a in Clojure practitioner, obviously, and you have released a Leiningen template called Chestnut.
That is
something
correct.
That people are known about, and also, of course, you're doing the screencast for Lambda Island.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So so my name's Arne. I'm originally from Belgium. Moved to Berlin about 4 years ago, and up to that point, I was mostly doing Ruby. I've actually doing a lot of Ruby in the past. That's sort of been my main language. Going back to 2005, 2006 with the first Rails boom. But I've also always had a soft spot for functional programming. I'm a long-time Emacs user. That kind of set me on the.
Oh Jesus Christ! It's 2 on 1.
I'm also a vegetarian. If that helps to sort of balance things out.
It's 3 on that one, then
yeah. So Emacs kind of gave me a taste for Lisp, and then. I did a lot of Java in uni, which, I know Java gets a bad rep in some circles, but, I never did much of the enterprisey Java, luckily. So I have fond memories of doing Java. And then when I first saw Clojure, functional programming and Lisp on the JVM, it all came together. It just all made sense. And then what really got me hooked in the end was Overtone.
Oh, okay.
Started playing with Overtone, and the rest is history. And then got it. Started looking at how to do web development with Clojure. What's the story on the front end? What's the story on the back end? This was sort of, when React was still very young, and there was Ohm. There wasn't Ohm Next yet. I think maybe Reagent was already around.
Yeah.
But so I was, I wanted to try Ohm. I wanted to try Figwheel. I wanted to do it from Emacs and have my browser connected REPL that would work, with Cider. And And that all was just so hard to set up. And so I spent a long weekend, like, either Figwheel would be working or the REPL would be working, but then the auto reloading would break again. And in the end, when I finally got a working setup, I just threw that out and tweeted about it. And people loved it. It was really sort of, okay, finally something that I can just, git clone, line REPL, and then, run and off you go. So people really liked it, and so I turned into a lining and template, and it's sort of been evolving a bit since then, and kind of became a household name in the Clojure community. Like, I'm still, surprised, but it regularly happens that I see someone mention it in a conference talk or a blog post, and it's really amazing how that took off. I mean, it also really helped that David Nolan tweeted about it very early on.
Yeah. And also it has like almost 1,000 stars on GitHub, so that's an achievement. So
so I think
popularity.
I mean, and people still use it. I have to say, I was still kind of a Clojure noob at that point. And it's been improved over the years. But for instance, it doesn't use any component system. Things like that. There's various ways that, probably if I would do it all over, I would do it in a different way. And I've been sort of thinking about, what could be the Chestnut next. But I've just sort of too much on my plate to really work on that. Would I use boot?
Yeah, I'm allowed to ask the question out loud. I just put it in the chat there.
Yes.
The
side channels. The fourth wall.
I was just wondering, actually, because you said it was a Linigan plugin, so I'm just wondering, because, we talked to Misha in the past about Hoplon and stuff like that. Obviously, it's a very different way of looking at the web to all the React stuff. But I was just wondering, if you played with boot at all.
I've played a tiny bit with boot. Have to say I haven't used it that much yet. People have asked repeatedly if I would make a boot version of Chestnut. I haven't done that so far because I found that there's already a bunch of different flags in there to kind of get different versions of it. And I found that very quickly leads to a lot of complexity, just maintaining the thing that the amount of combinations blows up. That's one reason why I haven't turned it into a boot thing. There's community alternatives that kind of do the same thing with boot.
Right. No point in reinventing the wheel, is there? If someone else has done a similar equivalent, then fine, yeah?
Yeah, but my main sentiment about this is that actually, I think both Leiningen or boot, if you look at Chestnut, like, it's a massive Leiningen file. And I feel that, if I would do it over again, I would do much less through Leiningen and much more inside the application. Like, all of that stuff that Leiningen is managing, your nREPL, your Figwheel, instead of having that done through Leiningen plugins, just have that be, system components in your app.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way that boot works, isn't it, actually? Is that it's more code that's extendable and you just write your code, and so it's not like this plug-in stuff where you have to conform to the Leiningen way. You can just write any code that you want. Which is why boot might be more appealing to you in the future. But anyway,
that is true. Actually, I always held that, boot, from what I've seen of it, I think boot is great. But, what I always really keep in mind, like, what, is it helping beginners? Is it helping newcomers? And there's downsides to Leiningen, but it's a standard in a way. And so I've always had very mixed feelings about this. Like, yes, I appreciate that people are trying to improve things. But now it's just like another thing when someone comes to Clojure and it's like, Leiningen, boot. Just having to make that choice can be enough to turn people off.
Yeah.
We're going to get into... sorry, Vijay,
Yeah. So I'd like to take a quick step back. So because I wanted to ask you, how did you learn Clojure? I mean, what was your path? I mean, did you read any books or how did you get into Clojure actually?
Good question. I started out with a couple tutorials. I don't even remember which one. Like, they weren't particularly great tutorials, but just sort of, the main data structures and the main syntax. and then just started playing with it. Like I said, overtone was really important for me at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I read The Joy of Clojure pretty early on.
Okay.
And that was a big one for me, even though it was already probably too advanced for my level then. Like, looking at it now, now I've read, at least half a dozen Clojure books, and I would say like, okay, don't read Joy of Clojure first.
Yeah, I made that mistake too. Yeah, it was a nightmare. Yeah. My God, these are too hard.
I worked my way through it and learned a ton. And I would love to reread it actually now to see how much more I would get out of it.
Yeah, likewise, yeah.
But yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah. And staying on the same theme. So obviously you're now part of Clojure Bridge. You've been running the workshops for teaching people Clojure, and also the same theme extends into your Lambda Island. You're making screencasts about learning Clojure. So how did you get into Clojure Bridge? I mean, how did it all start, and what are you doing with Clojure Bridge?
That's a funny story actually. So it all kind of started at the Ruby Monsters. So there's a really active Rails Girls community in Berlin. So they also do free workshops for women or other underrepresented groups. And so I was a coach at Rails Girls for several years. And one of the great things with Rails Girls in Berlin is that after the workshop, several study groups formed that sort of meet every week to continue to learn. They just have the same people that go there like with the Ruby Monsters, it's every Monday evening. They have a couple coaches there, and they kind of work their way through a curriculum and then eventually built an app. So I had been a coach at Ruby Monsters every Monday evening for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And when I was, really started spending more time with Clojure, and I was playing around with overtone, and I showed some people there overtone, and like, oh, this is, look at this, you can make music with this, and it's cool, it's awesome. And so we basically split off. Like we kept on meeting every Monday at the same place, but we were sort of, first there were just
Clojure on the side.
Yeah, there were just three of us that were sort of sitting on the side doing this weird Clojure stuff.
Okay.
And then a couple more people joined. Then we were 5 in our little Clojure group, and it was all. I mean, looking back at it now, these were like people that were still learning programming, and we were like covering overtone, Clojure, and Emacs all at the same time. It was like complete overload, but it was awesome. We did a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then Clojure Bridge Solingen happened. So this was the first Clojure Bridge in Germany, in like another city more in the west. And we saw this and we were like, wait, what? Like they're doing a Clojure Bridge in this random city that half of us haven't heard of, and there's not a Clojure Bridge in Berlin. Like, how is this possible? And then we decided to do a Clojure Bridge, which I think some people afterwards regretted because it's a lot of work. And that first workshop was tough at times, and then the second one I think was even harder because everybody was like, still a bit recovering from the first one.
Yeah.
But once we had made that push to like, okay, 6 months later, let's just do this again. And then once the second workshop had happened, we were kind of in this rhythm, and it just kept going. And now we're 2 years in. And
okay.
Yeah.
And what is the structure of the Clojure Bridge? Is it like a 1 day training in Clojure, and who is working on the curriculum and everything?
Yeah, so it's typically a 1 day workshop. So we on Friday evening everybody meets up, and it's called the Install Fest. We just make sure everybody's laptop is okay, that they have all the stuff that they need, and then the next day everybody gets together. We have some breakfast. We have an opening presentation, and then we split everybody in groups. So there's usually groups of about 4 students with 2 coaches, and then they work their way through the curriculum.
Okay.
And there's a Clojure Bridge curriculum that, we kind of, we've made some changes for the Berlin team. Some of those have gone back upstream, but there's kind of a shared curriculum that all Clojure Bridges use.
Okay.
That just kind of goes through the basics, functions, data structures. And then in the afternoon, we get them to work on a Quill app.
Okay.
Right.
So they do graphics, and it's very hands-on.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much you can do in a day, and that's one of the things that I love about Clojure Bridge.
Yeah.
Like when you do Rails Girls, it's so challenging to just the basic concept of Ruby and Rails to pack that in a single day. Whereas with Clojure, you can like pack all the basic concepts in half a day and then have half a day to play around with graphics. And so we have a demo at the end of the day where people can show their quill sketches. And it's super impressive. It's always really cool what people come up with.
Okay. That's pretty nice.
So we're actually going to do I think you're looking at doing a Clojure Bridge as well, VJ, aren't you? And we're thinking about it in Belgium too. The interesting thing about Clojure Bridge for me is, I mean, we're a relatively small community in the first place. So the big question, I think, is how do you market this thing? You know, how do you get it out there? What sort of tentacles do you put out into the community to make these kind of things happen?
Good question, because it's really important to reach out. Actually, it makes a huge difference. So I think in the first workshops, we just we tweeted about it, we told our friends, and so we got a lot of people, a lot of familiar faces that we already knew from the Rails Girls community, from sort of the Berlin tech community and people around that. But then later on, we decided to make a bigger effort to really reach out and try to find, reach out to other groups that would not necessarily find us. And so what we do now, we actually print flyers and posters. We put those around universities. We put those just around on the street in town, bakeries or libraries, whatever. There's also a couple people that sort of look around for Facebook groups or mailing lists, anything from, feminist or LGBTQ or, all these kind of sub-communities that might be tangentially interested in what we're doing. Just sort of give them a shout, hey, we're doing this. And so that's how, on the last workshop, we had 150 people sign up.
Wow.
We don't have enough space for them, unfortunately. Like, we've been growing slowly. I think the last workshop we had 35, 36 attendees. This time we're going for 40. So that's kind of the drawback of that. We have to disappoint a lot of people, but you do really notice the added diversity on the day. Like, it's not just that they're women or non-binary, but it's sort of people with different backgrounds from different different communities, and that's really nice to see.
What do you do? Do you do like a first come first serve type thing, or do you have some other filters, or how does that work?
We have a system where we pick people at random, and then give them a limited amount of time to confirm.
Right.
So this is a system that basically we inherited also from Rails Girls, because the problem is if you do it first come first serve, then you get a lot of people that sign up just to make sure they have a slot, but they might not be 100% sure yet if they can make it, or they sign up a month beforehand and circumstances change. And so what you get with a lot of free events like this, and I've heard this from similar workshops all around, that they get a lot of no-shows. Sometimes up to half of the people just don't show up, and this is super sad, because you only have so much space. You're already sending so many people away, and then half don't show up.
Yeah, you don't want to be disappointing the people that could have actually went. Yeah, that's really annoying.
Exactly. Yeah. So we invite, we say like, okay, we want to invite 40 people. We pick 40 people at random, and we say confirm within a week. And then a week later, we see how many spaces freed up. We invite more, and so that's kind of what's happening now. Our next workshop's in a couple of weeks, and so me and someone else, we're basically constantly in the mailbox checking like, okay, who's replying, and keeping that all up to date.
Okay, and another question for you is that what kind of proportion of like non-male white males do you kind of want to bring to the party? Because again, if you're underrepresented groups, you want to have women, ethnic minorities, all these kind of other kind of like LGBT type people. How do you structure the kind of teaching staff to be well, I don't know about to be sympathetic, but to be, because I hope everyone is, but I mean to be kind of more like those people, or to make them feel more welcome.
Yeah. The main thing, so this is a bootstrapping problem, right? Like, and this is also something I talk about with other communities, that what is it, is it still a good idea to do this kind of workshop if basically all your coaches are white guys? You know, isn't that kind of setting the wrong example? And so what we do, we are lucky that in this community we do have a good group of women that can do those things and are there to help us do that. The organization is mixed, but at least half of them are women. And what we especially do is make sure that those women have the most visible positions. So, and any presentations, we tend to make sure that the women do that. Also, we've been going for 2 years now, and so we also have now our study group of our own, people that are studying every week, continuing to learn Clojure.
Right.
And so we already have several people that, you know, were at the same workshop that are coaching now or that are helping to organize now.
Yeah, that's
so
brilliant. Yeah.
It's really starting to feed into itself, which is nice to see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
Sorry, mate. Yeah.
So I was wondering, obviously, I mean, this kind of things need some sort of a sponsorship. So how do you manage the sponsorship? I mean, who is putting? You must have some expenses. I mean, you need to have some space and food or something like that for people.
Yeah, we do have expenses. Especially food is one of our bigger expenses. Or sometimes we've done T-shirts. T-shirts get expensive. So we kind of drafted up a number of sponsorship tiers. So at the moment that goes from $700 for a platinum sponsorship down to $250 for just sort of a supporter sponsorship. And then we start emailing people. We have a GitHub. We track these things over GitHub issues. It's actually all public if you want to see this.
Okay.
So we just have sort of a long list of companies that use Clojure or are sympathetic to our cause, and then people just pick someone off the list and write them an email. Say, do you wanna support us?
Yeah.
And we're also just talking to a lot of people. You know, Euro Clojure meetups.
Yeah.
That all helps.
Yeah. And it has been successful so far. As in, you were not constrained by money, hopefully.
No, it has been successful so far. Actually, we've been lucky enough to always raise a little bit more than we needed so far. And we collaborate for this with Travis Foundation. So there's Travis CI, which is this continuous integration app, but they also have a foundation. So which they put a bunch of their own money in, but which is also crowdfunded. And the foundation does things like Rails Girl Summer of Code, where they fund women to work on open source for a summer. And so also things like Clojure Bridge, we can use Travis Foundation to help us with our finances. So if a sponsor wants to give us money, we can do one of two things. You know, if we say like, okay, you want to sponsor for €500, here's a food bill for €500, you know, you two figure it out. That's usually the easiest, but that doesn't always work. It doesn't always match up. So then they make a donation to Travis Foundation. Travis Foundation can give them a tax receipt, which is, you know, in bureaucratic Germany, it's important that that's an official non-profit. And then any costs we have, we just get Travis Foundation to refund us. So that's kind of nice. And we've been building up a small amount of savings in Travis Foundation kind of for a rainy day. Oh,
that's pretty nice. Actually, we are, at least I heard that in the Netherlands, they are working on the Clojure Bridge NL. It's still in the progress. Probably you know already. I don't know.
I have heard mentions. I believe some people came by our booth at Euro Clojure from the Netherlands that were interested in organizing a workshop. It would be great.
Actually, my wife I think just spoke to you guys at Euro Clojure, and she's also in talks with the Clojure Bridge NL group, because she did some coaching at Django Girls before. For one day in The Hague. And I think she's gonna help with the Clojure Bridge in NL. So I think she's interested in doing that. But we'll see when it is going to be solidified in terms of planning and everything. So
looking forward. Like there's been, I didn't think it's 5 or 6 countries in Europe that have had Clojure Bridges so far, and I'm really curious to see now, because we had a lot of positive feedback at Euro Clojure, like speaking about it. If we manage to inspire some local chapters, you know, really curious to see what will come of that.
That's brilliant stuff, Arne. Really is. So I think we can we can thank you for setting these kind of things up, and as you say, getting some tips on the infrastructure.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, we are a whole team, you know. Like, I really don't want to take too much credit for Clojure Bridge. There's a lot of people here.
Yeah, there's a lot of enthusiasm at the Euroclojure actually amongst the you and Malwine, and also there was some other girls at the Euroclojure who were very enthusiastic about it. So it's obviously growing, which is fantastic, It
really works. Like so, if you go to the Berlin Clojure meetup now, it's a very diverse and mixed crowd, and we're really spoiled in Berlin in that way. I think if you go to meetups in a lot of other places, it's not the case.
That's true.
So that's something that you see that it really works. If you start doing this in your city, regularly, a year or two later, you really reap the rewards. So I can only hardly recommend it.
Yeah. I think more people need to be, I don't know, exposed to this awesomeness. I agree. More people need to get into the parentheses. That's pretty cool. Okay, so continue let's continue on the same theme. So training people with Clojure. So you've been doing this podcasts screencasts for Clojure.
Exactly.
That's called Lambda Island, right?
Yeah.
So what is the plan? What is the plan behind it, and how did you start it, and what are you teaching people in that one?
So I started Lambda Island today 7 months ago.
Oh, wow.
So I launched 13th of May on a Friday the 13th.
And you're on the 13th episode. This is universe
Sunday
conspiring.
the 13th as well. So.
Yeah. No, this was basically my way of saying, I have so much faith in Clojure that I'm happy to launch on a Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So, and then, so it's a site where people can subscribe and then watch the videos that I make. It's the main team is Clojure web development.
Okay.
So there's backend stuff there. There's front end stuff. There are kind of 4 tracks. So there's the backend, the front end. Then I have some episodes that are more specifically about tooling. Because this is one of the things that when I talk to people and they get stuck on tooling, and it's the most horrible thing to get stuck on, So I really try to pick some things apart, like how to use, Figwheel with Emacs, or how does what are all these options that go to the Clojure Script compiler? There's some episodes about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then there are some episodes just about sort of fundamentals, what I call fundamentals, like the sum function, this weird little function that half of the people don't really understand what's it for.
Yeah.
Or I had an episode about spec, which a lot of people watched.
Yeah.
And so some of these episodes are free, but most of them, you need to take a subscription. It's comparatively cheap. Maybe in January or February I'm going to start raising my prices a little bit, but had to build a bit of a catalog first. So
okay. So people who are listening, so go and subscribe now because the prices are going to go up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send
FOMO.
I'll send a bit of advance warning, so people can get their subscriptions ready. So
what's your plan for this one? So you want to make it like a kind of a connected tutorial sort of thing, or individual episodes, or this is like bite-sized standalone episodes?
It's a bit of both.
Okay.
So episodes are 10 to 15 minutes typically.
Okay.
And most of them you should be able to watch standalone. But there are also certain threads. I mean, some are like there's I think 3 episodes that just sort of talk about everything that's inside Luminous.
Yep.
Those obviously kind of go together. And then there's 3 episodes that are very beginner friendly about Ring.
Yeah.
So those kind of go together. But then, for instance, there's all the episodes that built on React. So I started with an episode about using React without any free framework, just React with Clojure Script. And then the next episode went into Reagent, and then I had some more episodes about specific parts of Reagent, and now I'm covering Reframe. And so those kind of built on top of each other. But if you already know React, if you're already familiar with the principles of React, you can skip ahead to Reagent. Or if you already, seen Reagent, or at least know, a bit of React and know what Hiccup is, maybe you can skip straight to Reframe. Okay. So I do try to kind of make them self-contained to a point.
Okay. How many videos do you have right now?
19,
okay.
I think.
Oh wow, 19. Okay.
Yeah, 19. It's between 3 and 4 hours of content now.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
And how much? What's the kind of before we get in? I mean, you tell me. What about the process for making these kind of things? I'm guessing that it's probably a big effort to make each one of those videos. Shut up with the Emacs, for God's sake. I bet he's not using Emacs to edit the fucking videos. Yeah?
That is correct.
Boom! Screw you!
Yeah, I'm even shocker. I'm even rebooting to Windows to edit the videos.
Oh Jesus Christ! Oh wow!
But I'm skipping ahead now. So I started out. My original plan was to So I launched and I said, okay, I'm not sure like how many videos, how often I'll be making a video. I'm just gonna see how well the process goes. But so many people kept asking, but if I'm gonna get a subscription, how often are you gonna post? So I said like, okay, I'm gonna start with once a week and kind of see where it goes from there. This turned out to be very optimistic, and so then I kind of dropped to 10 days, 2 weeks. And that's kind of a reasonable publishing schedule for me. So what goes into an episode is basically, so once I know my topic, I research a topic. I'm often like I'm playing around with it. I might be reading the code, reading documentation, asking questions on Slack, make sure that I really know what I'm talking about. I mean, some things I already know quite well, but obviously not everything.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a lot of value in sort of teaching as you learn. So the pain is still fresh.
Yeah.
And then I try to find a good example, like, okay, what's the code that I'm going to show? I prefer to have some kind of practical thing that I can really show, like here's an app or here's something that does something. So then I go into coding mode and I try to build something that's kind of, neat and clean and easy to help me explain things. Then I go into writing, and so I write the whole script for the episode, which is, what I'm going to say plus the code, what I'm going to say plus the code. So that's just one markdown file, which then later also serves as the transcript on the site. And then I go into recording. So I have this thingy. I can show it to you. People on the podcast obviously can't see it, but I have this kind of MIDI controller that I have an elaborate script, so I can record either video or voice or take a screenshot. That kind of just generates timestamped files. And so for each scene, so this markdown file is kind of divided in scenes, 10-15 seconds each. I'll record the video, then I'll record the audio, and then all of that goes into Vegas. I'm using Sony Vegas. So then, it's another half a day of sticking that all together. And then you got your 10 minutes of videos, and then you're, one week further on, and then you haven't done any marketing yet, or,
But there is significant amount of work. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I do recognize that I might be overdoing it, but at the moment it's the only way that I know how. And I do get a lot of compliments on the production quality of the videos.
Yeah.
So I think that's just sort of the trade-off now, that yes, like, releases will be a bit slower, but you're gonna get value for your money. I am trying to improve the process. There's still several things that it's already gotten a lot better. I've gotten a lot better and at the writing and at the recording. But I'm assuming I'm gonna keep getting better at this, and hopefully it'll only get easier from here on.
Okay. So obviously, when you've been very busy with Lambda Island and Clojure Bridge and all of this stuff, so what is your day job, or what do you do other than these things? I really sincerely wish that you could make your full living based on Lambda Island. I hope there is going to be more people subscribing.
Same here. I sincerely wish so as well. But when I launched, so up to last year, up to about a year ago, I was actually doing Ruby more or less full time as a contractor. So I've been doing contract work since 2009 in various languages. I've worked in telecom. I've done various freelance gigs. But the last couple of years, I was mostly doing Ruby for an Irish company. And then last year I decided that, okay, this is very comfortable, but I want my own product. I want something where I'm not just selling my time. I want to, plus I want something that I'm really behind, where I'm kind of, doing something positive for the world, something creative.
Yeah.
And so I took my savings and kind of calculated that, okay, this is the runway that I have. Let's do this. And so I started building the site. I started making the first, figuring out my production pipeline, writing the first episodes. And then eventually in May, I launched. And at that point, I was still thinking that, okay, if subscribers go up month after month, and if I can do some so people can get a subscription either per month, but they can also pay ahead for a year.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, I was like, okay, if I can get a couple of annual subscriptions every month, plus subscription base keeps growing at a certain rate, by the end of the year, I'm in the clear, and I can just sort of get past the cutoff point, and everything will be golden. It underperformed by about half, I'd say. So it's still good. Like, I'm still quite happy with the number of subscriptions that I'm having. So I'm at 71 paying customers now, plus 2 team subscriptions, 2 companies that got a subscription for their team.
Yeah.
So I think it's enough to validate the idea, to say like, okay, this is going to take some time. This is what in startup circles is known as the long, slow ramp of death.
Yeah.
You're making, you have revenue, and revenue is going up, but you're also losing money every single month.
Yeah.
And so this, by August, September, it was really starting to get dire, and I was like, okay, I need to do something.
You're bleeding out at that point.
Yeah, and it was really giving me a lot of stress, like I saw my bank account going down every month.
Yeah.
So I took on a freelance gig that has kept me busy the past month, and so people might have noticed that it's been very quiet on Lambda Island. Yeah. I sent out a newsletter recently just to kind of make people aware of that okay, I'm sorry, but this is how things are, I need to survive, and I want to keep doing this, and there's going to be new episodes very soon. I'm working on the next episode now. It's going to be about reframe subscriptions.
Yeah.
But so I had to kind of do that, but it's been good. It's been an interesting project, and it should allow me to be good again until well into next year, and then hopefully, if subscriptions keep going up, maybe with a little bit of part-time freelancing left or right, I can eventually, I think another year, hopefully less, and I can probably live from Lambda Island.
Okay. Yeah. Of course, I mean we sincerely wish that it's gonna pick up soon, and obviously you're on Defen now, so there are a lot of Defen listeners, we are pretty sure.
I think your future is assured now, Arne.
Yeah, sold, right? This is
you're on the best vegetarian Clojure podcast in the world right now, like the number one.
Yeah, the most watched, the most listened.
Most listened to,
yeah. Very looking forward to. Let me quickly check how my sales are going at the moment.
Anyway, I mean, seriously, I mean, it's fantastic work, and I hope. Of course, I'll subscribe right after this show anyway. So I was planning to. I'll do that, and hopefully the listeners who are listening to it will support you, and especially because you're spending your time not only on this one, and also all your contribution to Clojure Bridge, which are way more valuable. So you need to be supported, in my opinion. You have to. People need to support you. So so big shout out to our audience. So go and check out lambdaisland.com, and I think it's very valuable worth the money for the price that Arne is charging. So
check it out, and if you sign up at the moment, you still get a 1-week free trial, so you can look at some videos, see if you like it. It's not going to break the bank. $12 a month. And
it's like the one of those stupid grande latte bullshit crap that Starbucks sells, I think. I don't know. It's just
more or less
crazy.
Than that, I think. Less than that.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed we can give you a little boost push there, Arne. Yeah,
that'd be very nice. It's been a pretty wild ride, so everything's welcome.
Well, I think the fact that you're doing it, you're taking that risk for the community is pretty fantastic. It's nice to see people like yourself giving so much, risking so much, for this language, and we all wish you fantastic success, but we don't want to stop here. We should definitely talk about some more things. But there'll be a little sponsor section over there.
Yeah, because I'm obviously doing this because I love Clojure, right? And I really want to see Clojure succeed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think there's still a big gap in documentation. There's a lot of READMEs that are just not accessible. And so that's basically what I'm addressing.
Yeah,
and I'm really curious to see Clojure and Clojure Script world domination, because I'm actually getting I came for Clojure, but I think I'm going to stay for Clojure Script. I'm getting more and more excited about everything that's happening there.
Yeah,
it's a funny thing actually, because one of the things that David Nolan talked about, I think in his talk prior to the Euroclojure and at Euroclojure as well, was how basically Clojure Script has been kind of building up over the past few years, and all the kind of underpinnings that Rich put in initially, and then gradually all these collections, and then gradually all the tooling that's come on top. You can see that there's, like you said at the very beginning of the show, there's a lot of pain at the beginning with Clojure Script, or there was a couple of years ago, and it's very off-putting. But what would you say the current state is? Because I think you're right that the power is there, but I still feel like there's still a small barrier to entry, bigger than I think than the JavaScript developers have, a lot bigger actually. But things are coming together, especially with things like RUM and reframe and reagent. I mean, those guys are doing pretty spectacular work. So what do you think is the next sort of... This is a long question, okay? Longest question in the world.
I'm listening.
What do you think the next steps are to making it a bit easier to get on board with the Clojure Script?
Well, I'm not sure if this is something that is gonna make it easier to get started with Clojure Script, but I think what is going to be the next big thing for Clojure Script is going to be the improved module support. So this is something that is being talked a lot behind the scenes, but I think not enough people know about. Both Clojure Script itself and the Google Clojure compiler that Clojure Script is based on are making great improvements to basically be more compatible with the existing JavaScript ecosystem. And I think that is really, that's the missing key. That's the keystone that we're missing to attract more JavaScript developers and more developers in general, because it's kind of, you have this language, this wonderful, nice functional language that compiles to JavaScript, and JavaScript is everywhere, and everyone's doing JavaScript. But tapping into the JavaScript ecosystem, okay, there's CLJS, which is already great, but it's a curated manual effort. And so the two big things that are going to come is Clojure Script is going to get a system for basically detecting which identifiers are external. So now when you compile your code with advanced optimizations and you're referencing libraries that are not part of your build, then those names will be mangled or completely removed, and everything breaks. So Clojure Script is going to get support for basically saying, okay, we don't know what this is, so we're assuming that this is external. We shouldn't change this identifier. That's already going to remove a lot of pain, because now you have people, they build stuff, it works, they want to put it in production, it breaks. That sucks. The other thing, and that's probably even bigger thing, is that the Google Clojure compiler is getting support for the CommonJS, so the format that NPM modules use. So it will basically be possible to just straight up consume NPM modules in your Clojure Bridge build without anything extra. And that is just going to be such a game changer.
Well, I think I was just saying there that the work of Maria in the Google Summer of Code last year was the underpinnings for this modular effort.
Yes, Maria Geller has made a huge contribution. Yeah.
Actually, I watched a video from Clojure West or the Conj last year. I can't remember which, but it was really amazing because she was explaining exactly how she made these commits to the Clojure Script compiler. And that's an example, actually, of someone coming into the community fairly new and was able to make some pretty amazing changes to the technology. Obviously, with David Nolan's support, but still, it's people have got the possibility there of making these big changes. So the only thing, because I was asking about this a while ago, so when do we think all of these things are going to land? Because they've been talked about for quite a while, So are we looking like end of this year, beginning next year? Do you think? What do you think about the timescales?
I mean, that is a very hard question. I mean, this is also something that David Nolan always emphasizes, that things will be ready when they're ready.
Sure.
Clojure Script, as opposed to Clojure, like Clojure is an official Cognitect project and has resources allocated by Cognitect. Plus, obviously people from the community contributing, but at its heart, it's a project that is being run and built and maintained by Cognitect in their paid time.
Yep.
Clojure Script also has obviously Cognitect people on it, like David works for Cognitect, but doing Clojure Script is not his day job.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a good side to that, in that Clojure Script is a much more community-driven effort. It's a much more transparent and much more sort of open source project, which I really appreciate. But it also means that some things just have to wait until the contributions land, until someone has the time and the effort to do it, and that's one of the things where I'm also hoping through the things that I'm doing through my screencasts, like, okay, why do I spend time talking about the Clojure Script compiler, or why do I spend time talking about what nREPL is and how it works? This is partly to make people's lives easier, that they just know, okay, how does this stuff work, so they can use it. Yeah. But it's also to encourage people to dive in and to look at the code and to understand that this is all written by humans like you and me, and if you see something you can make better, then go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot in our tooling that still can be improved, and especially things like Piggyback is essentially unmaintained, and the whole CLJS tooling system depends on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of hoping, like, there's already a lot of people involved in the whole of community effort around Clojure Script, but there's definitely and I wish I could do more. Like, again, if I could clone myself, there's so many things that I would be writing right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it remains to be seen. I think to be concrete, the externs, the definition of the externs, that might not be so far away. I mean, I've seen David Nolan drop some hints that shouldn't be too hard to get in. I'm not gonna put a time frame on it, but
sure.
That shouldn't be too far away. The NPM module support from Google Clojure compiler, well, that's a whole different question. Because it's Google. I mean, there's you just kind of have to wait for them.
Yeah.
And all that we've seen so far is basically a mailing list post saying we want to do this.
Yeah. But
so it's just no telling. Yeah.
There's also Lumo that has been just going on Twitter these days, right? I think the last couple of days.
Yeah. So Lumo, is it Antonio?
Yeah, I think so.
He announced Lumo at the Clojure meetup actually last week, so I was there, and it's a really great project, and I'm also quite excited about this because this might actually be a game changer in that respect. That with Lumo, so to quickly say, Lumo is a bit like Planck. It's a standalone Clojure Script REPL. So you just launch it from the command line, it launches instantly, and you can start doing Clojure Script. The difference with Planck is that Planck is built on JavaScript core. Yeah. So this is the JavaScript engine that ships with Macs and with iPhones.
Yeah.
Whereas Lumo is built on V8, so it's basically built on the same technology that Node uses.
Yeah.
And so there's a couple nice things about this. The first one is that it's from the first release completely cross-platform. So I'm still having trouble with Planck on Linux, even though I mean they've been working on that and they've made great progress, but it's still not working on all setups. I think especially certain versions of Ubuntu it's problematic. Whereas Lumo works beautifully everywhere, including Windows. So it's also great for teaching, and you can pull in Node modules and basically call into the Node module system. Now, of course, this is kind of it's a bit cheating in a way, because the fact that it's bootstrapped Clojure Script means that you're basically just not using the Clojure Script, the Google Clojure compiler.
Yeah.
So you're not getting those advanced optimizations, which if you're not using advanced optimizations, then yeah, all of this stuff also works in regular Clojure Script. You know, it's those advanced optimizations that always cause the problems.
Yeah.
But still, it's really cool. Like, you know, you make a package.json, you install those modules, and you say JS require, and you're off. Yeah. So for all kinds of scripting, for teaching, for tooling, I think this holds great promise. So I've been shouting out to everyone who wants to hear, you know, check out Lumo, use it, play with it.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to play with it yet. I mean, I just saw this on Twitter. I think since the last couple of days, I think a bit. So it just got into my to-do list. So I really need to check that out. Okay, so because you're into Clojure Script, so maybe I should ask at least one controversial question. I
shouldn't have told you can ask anything, right?
I was just curious, like because you're doing because of your screencast. I mean, you're getting into so many libraries and you're playing with them and you're making them palatable to the people who want to learn. So what is if you want to start your own, obviously you built Lambda Island. I'm assuming it is built on Clojure. So this is a two-part question. So one is, you know, what is the stack that you used for Lambda Island? And the second one is, what is your preferred stack of libraries in Clojure Script these days? Because there are so many right now. So
good question. Lambda Island itself is a traditional quote-unquote web app, in that all the HTML is generated on the server side. So it's not a big one-page app. I thought for the kind of site that it is, like, as much as I love, you know, doing React stuff and playing with Clojure Script, for the kind of, you know, content-driven document-based site, it just made much more sense to keep it simple. And what I'm using there, so it's plain old Composure. If I would do it over, I might use Yada and BD. But at the moment, it's just a bunch of Composure routes, and I kind of have a bit of my own conventions of how I split them into files. And then I'm making a lot of use of NLive to generate HTML. So I kind of have this hybrid setup where I'm using NLive to basically have just plain HTML files that can then act as templates. Plus, I have a bunch of functions that basically look like React components, so they're just functions that return hiccup. And so those combined is how I generate my HTML. It runs on a Postgres database. I'm using HoneySQL for the database. Trying to think what else is in there.
And how do you deploy it? Where is it running?
It's running on a... I was going to say DigitalOcean, but no, it's actually on... What are they called again?
Linode?
No, it's something UpCloud.
UpCloud. Okay, cool.
Because so last year, about a year ago, there was the Clojure Cup. This hackathon. And so we also participated in that with a couple of people here from Berlin, and we built this thing called the Land of Quill, where people can like try out Quill in the browser. And so we ended up winning the Clojure Cup, and one of the prizes was I think it was 500 euros worth of credit at this UpCloud. And so I've just been running on that. Like, I haven't paid a dime yet for keeping Lambda Island online. So it's just sort of running on a virtual server, which I've deployed myself and kind of keep up to date.
So the second part of the question. So if you were to build a SPA or a single page application in Clojure Script, so what would be your preferred libraries and stack?
Reframe, hands down.
Any reasons or?
So I think Reframe is just if you look at where React is heading. So people, there was first React, and then they realized, React goes well with immutable JS. And then people realized that, React is just a view layer. We need something to manage our state and to manage events. And then Redux came about. And, now you're having you're stacking ES6 and JSX and immutable JS and Redux and all of that stuff together just to get kind of a functional experience. And basically all the same stuff you get out of the box with reframe, plus you get this beautiful, elegant, Lispy Clojure script. It's really wonderful how it. So the idea behind reframe is that you have your reagent components, that's your views.
Yeah.
And there's a single reagent atom, which is your application database, which holds all your state.
Yeah.
And then in one direction, you have these subscriptions, which are basically queries of your database that make the data flow back towards your component, but they also mean that it can be very efficient about realizing what needs to be re-rendered and what shouldn't be. So that's the stuff that is all going into the episode that I'm writing now.
Okay.
And then on the other side, you have events which can cause side effects. And there also reframe just has a beautiful story of how you can model. So the main side effect is updating the database, and that's built in. And there's libraries for doing things like Ajax. But the way that works is instead of actually, making a side effectful call, you have effect handlers that return a map that describe the effects that need to happen. And so all of these effect handlers, they're pure functions. You can test them as pure functions, and all of the actual side effecty stuff is handled behind the scenes.
Okay. Yeah.
And so this is a really nice design. It's I'm a big fan.
Yeah. So obviously you're making screencasts for reframe. So this is another probably good reason for people to subscribe to your
So
your episodes.
If that pitch was anything to go by, you should check out reframe. And if you want to learn more about reframe,
just go to
some
Lambda
screencasts.
Island. Yeah. Okay. I think we covered most of the topics that we want to cover. Ray, do you have any questions or any comments?
Well, again, like you say, we could probably talk all night about this stuff because there's so much interesting stuff in this area. But we're coming on the hour mark, so we probably, better let Arne get back to his screencasting and back to his work. So it's all good. No, it's really fascinating. I think it's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I think we've learned a lot of stuff. So. I'm happy to kind of start wrapping it up, but if you want to have a few more bits and pieces, VJ? Yeah,
of course. Obviously, Arne, thanks a lot for joining us and sharing your experience with Clojure.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was really nice.
It's been a pleasure. And I just want to do a quick round on what events are happening around in Clojure. So obviously, Clojure Conch is going to happen in December. This year, the Clojure Conch on December 1st to 3rd in Texas, Austin, and this time Rich Hickey is going to keynote it. So it's been a long time since we saw Rich Hickey on a keynote. So.
Curious if it's going to be another classic Hickey talk that we can share for years to come.
Exactly. And there are a couple of events coming up. Clojure D is in February, I think.
Exactly. That's here in Berlin, the German Clojure conference. I think it's end of February.
Clojure D. And I'm not sure if the RFP is still open, though.
The CFP closed last week or 2 weeks ago, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So, but that sounds like a very fantastic conference. I've never been there. Maybe this year I'll try to see if I can join.
And if you want to meet the whole, like I said, we have a really nice community going on here, so you really should come. I know it's winter; it's not the best time to visit Berlin, but we'll keep it warm and cozy inside.
Of course. I'll try my best, and I'm part of.
Just another quickie there, VJ. There is this Clojure Exchange in London as well.
Oh yeah, in December
on the 1st and 2nd of December.
True.
That is true. That's also coming up. Yeah.
Oh, so there are two conferences happening at the same time then. So Conch in the US.
Attention.
As I was saying, last week or something, I got together with the organizers of the Dutch Clojure Day. We were organizing it last year as well. I was part of the organization of Dutch Clojure Day in Amsterdam. And for the long time, probably the long time listeners of this show know that Defn podcast originated at Dutch Clojure Day, or at least the seeds of it. We are planning to do the Dutch Clojure Day again next year. I think the date is probably March 25th. We're still organizing some details and figuring out how the conference is going to be. So those are the I think news and events happening, and obviously the big news is Lumo that we talked about a bit that happened in Clojure world these days. So I think that's it from me as an update. Back to you, Ray.
Yeah, no. We're experimenting with the format this time. That's
Exactly.
It's back to front, so no, I think that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Arne, again. I think we probably just need to make a few shout outs to the people that help us to put this all together.
Yep.
We have Pizzeri, who does the music, and he has a SoundCloud which you can listen to. We also have a shout out to Wouter, actually, who started to take over the editing. He's also doing some video editing for us.
Yep.
So shout out to Wouter. I'll put his details in the show notes as well.
Yep.
And then finally, we have the credit to the designer.
Yeah,
I think you've got more information about that.
Yeah. Lubov. Our logo and everything has been designed, and we were able to distribute some stickers of Defan, and they were very popular at Euroclojure. All of them are gone, and we were able to also give some nice Defan limited edition mugs to the people who were kind enough to talk to us at Defan on the video. So it's designed by Lubov, and of course we'll add our information into the show notes as well. So if you need any designy work or something, don't forget to keep these people in mind.
Yeah. Right.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, brilliant. Thank you very much.
All right.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.